I am. So I'm 41, and I grew up. I was born in Florida. Please don't hold that against me, Florida man.
Yeah.
My Florida man. I don't know if you've ever done the Florida man birthday thing, but my Florida man apparently tried to steal a vending machine from an apartment complex. If you do your Florida man birthday, mine
I've
was.
never done it, but I already know exactly what it is. That makes sense.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's hilarious, but yeah, Florida's a special kind of crazy. But I grew up in like around Orlando area, and then around high school I was in Sarasota, Florida. And Sarasota, Florida has Riverview High School and Sarasota High School. Riverview has a bagpipe band.
Ah, got you.
Yeah, and I had come back. So my mom was a teacher for the DoD, and we had come back from Japan in '96, I think. And I'd been, my family's Scottish, so it was kind of an easy shoe in. I'm the first one of this generation to play the bagpipes, but not the first one in my lineage. On my dad's side, there's quite a bit of Scottish history.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was really funny. I didn't go to Riverview High School. I went to Sarasota High School, which was Riverview's rival. So I was already an awkward kid, being 6'6" and kind of heavy set. Now you add the fact that I'm playing the bagpipes, which is the kiltie was like the rival school's mascot. And here I am at Sarasota High School, already awkward, playing the rival school's mascot bagpipe, and high school was a blast, yeah. But yeah, my dad and mom, they were divorced when I was like 4, but they always remained friends, totally unlike most folks today.
Most
they
cases,
were,
yeah.
yeah, they were incredible. My dad was my hero. He passed away back in 2020. Mom passed away in 19. Yeah, I mean they were good folks.
Yeah.
I always said if there's anything good in me, it comes from my dad, and he was a good dude, man. Got me interested in aviation from a young age, and so I had a career in aviation and a career in nursing. Aviation. The problem with aviation is it's like a keystone species, like a frog or something. Like anytime anything happens in the economy, the first thing to tank is aviation. They start letting people off. So 2020 was the last time I took a beating on that. Yeah.
So do you retain like the licenses that you would need so you could like pick up contracted flight work and stuff like that, or was it more like you were working for a commercial airline?
Yeah, I have an A&P certificate, so it's a mechanic certificate.
Gotcha.
And I've also got a private pilot's license, but I'm not current on that. But yeah, I mean, I could go back and turn wrenches again. It's just, I don't know, man. I've been kind of having an adventure here with the pipes, and it's been, I want to kind of see where it takes me.
Yeah. So was there an expectation as you grew up from the family that you would learn bagpipes, or was this something that you yourself were like, I'm going to play bagpipes?
No, it was me.
It
was really weird. My mom, she played the piano. My brother Chris has become a phenomenal guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Eric is a phenomenal pool player. My sister Corey, she's incredibly creative. She's the one that got me started with this as a business. She had a store on Etsy that was doing something like $24,000 in revenue just during the holiday season, making bows.
Whoa! I was gonna say doing what? Making bows?
Making lighted bows, yeah. So she's very sharp. But anyway, so they got talent. I tried the trumpet. I tried piano. I tried bass guitar, and I settled on bagpipes. It's odd to end up there.
Yeah.
They didn't push me in any direction, but I would say absolutely nurtured whatever creative pursuits I had, and I'm really grateful to my parents for that. I mean, you remember learning to play the pipes. I mean, how patient were your parents?
Oh, yeah.
With the first time you got the bag and the chanter and the reeds. And
not only that, my oldest is learning in earnest right now. We've kind of gone in fits and starts before, but he's 11 now. It's about the right time that he really is learning now. And even though I'm really excited about it, it gets old pretty fast having somebody learning to play bagpipes in your kitchen, So.
Yep. I remember getting so frustrated because I didn't learn from the College of Piping. I learned from the Sandy Jones book.
Oh yeah, I know that book. Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I met Sandy Jones a couple times, and everybody knows Sandy Jones.
Of course,
I think he got to the point where he just had to assume you had met you, because I walked by him once it wasn't at Grandfather Mountain, it was another dance. He was judging a competition there. And I'm like, oh, hey, Sandy. And he goes, oh, hey, man, it's good to see you. And I has no idea, never met the guy before.
That's just how he responds to everybody at this point, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to. But yeah,
That makes sense.
I remember getting so frustrated with one of the tunes in there, and it was that point where everything is just all the concepts you've been practicing all the concepts, and you're trying now to bring them all together, and it's that make or break moment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't popping, and I actually broke a practice chanter.
Did you really?
I was so ticked.
Got angry, huh?
Oh yeah. And
was it one of those rosewood practice chanters, or were you dealing with?
No, it was now back then it was $150, but now they're north of $250, I think. But it was a shepherd wooden practice chanter.
Oh wow, yeah.
That was a bad move, but yeah, and then I just kept at it, and the next day everything just synced, and it was
then
like, yeah, it was cool, man.
Oh, that's awesome. And that was while you were in high school or prepping to enter the high school pipe band?
So that was no, there wasn't a pipe band in my high school.
Wait, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought, I must have been. I was like, what do you call that thing where I was filling in details. I see now that you never said you went and played at the rival's high school. I was just assuming that you attended school at your high school and then went and played bagpipes with the rival.
No, if I had thought of that, no, that's a perfectly reasonable assumption. If I'd have thought of that, I probably would have done that. But no, the rival high school had the band, and then I played bagpipes at my school and at the talent show, no less. And,
so you were the lone piper, getting up there, basically waving the other school's colors by
pretty much. And you can imagine that went over like a turd in a punch bowl. But yeah, no, I played the pipes. I started when I was like 14, I think, and I started to pick them up, and then just kind of got going really really well in high school. My first teacher was in Sarasota. Mm-hmm. His name was Charlie Murray. The guy he's a legend in Sarasota piping. He was the piper for the Caledonian Society. Yeah. And we got involved in that. Again, Mom and Dad, they didn't push me in any particular direction, but whatever direction I wanted to go, they were very nurturing, and that's like the best kind of parenting you can have, right? It's just, you want to learn how to. I remember one year for Christmas, I was like 5. I asked for decoy ducks for Christmas.
When you were 5 years old.
Yeah, like what? Like where did I don't even, to this day I don't even know what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you have hunting in mind, or did you just want to be able to?
I just thought
camouflage seemed cool. Or?
I don't know. We had a big pool in the backyard, so I thought maybe this is in Florida, so everybody had a pool.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe they'd look cool in the pool. I guess I don't know, but sure enough, this tells you what kind of parents I had. They found decoy ducks. This is way before the Weber nets, man.
Just imagine the conversation. Like, I don't know. I guess we've got a duck kid. He's into ducks.
He's
gotta find some ducks for this kid.
A budding duck commander kid or whatever. But yeah, sure enough, there they were on Christmas morning, decoy ducks.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's evidenced too by the each of your siblings' sort of like obviously deep hobby that they're very into is like pretty darn unique and niche. It's not like they're.
Yeah, and it all requires a certain amount of obsession.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know of any pipers that just dabble.
That's true. I think it was Camille Osbrod who pointed out once that like maybe people who are attracted to piping they're already funneled a bit, but then beyond that, there's kind of a funneling that like it's going to be like kind of high achieving, obsessive personalities who stick with it long enough to actually get into it deeply enough that they stick with it forever. So I think you're right. It's not like it's a light hobby for anybody really.
No, definitely. That's a really good way to put it. And then, and I can remember. I mean, like to be accomplished at it. It takes a lot of power. I don't remember where I read it. Maybe it was something to do with one of the performing arts schools or something. But they were saying like to be really good at any instrument, you've got to put in like 40,000 hours of practice or something to that effect. Which I don't know that I put in that much time, but I can remember skipping school to go home and practice the bagpipes. So like, that's not a stealthy thing. Like a lot of kids that skip high school go home and they go back to bed, or they go to the mall or something. Like everybody in my neighborhood knew I was at home. because you could hear the bagpipes in the backyard.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't like I was being sneaky about it.
I think it was the philosopher, the great and famous philosopher Macklemore, who said 10,000 hours felt like 10,000 hands, something like that. Maybe that's
yeah. Macklemore. Yeah, that guy's hilarious.
Genius of our generation for sure.
We're very lucky to have him.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
to be
right.
contemporary.
National treasure.
Mm-hmm.
So you got into it. Did you join a band at some point in your youth, or were you a solo piper from the beginning?
No, so Charlie Murray again, first teacher. He brought me up through like grade 4 or 5-ish competition and solos, and I immediately started playing with that band. Back then it was Suncoast Scottish Pipes and Drums.
And that was like a community band. It wasn't tied to a police station or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
You know, you'd think like Dunedin, I think at the time had 4 or 5 bands. Like they had the middle school, the high school, Dunedin City, a couple of grades there. But you would think Sarasota with the high school would have more than just Riverview and then Suncoast Scottish, but that's all they did. And then now we were very fortunate. Fortunately, of course, Charlie's incredibly patient, infinitely patient. Now this guy apparently was like airborne ranger from Korea. Like he was
really?
like harder than woodpecker lips. This dude was tough.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this, but he'd had his hands operated. By the time I met him, he'd had his hands operated on 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, he'd been
like
playing
carpal tunnel stuff or like injuries?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm assuming, yeah. I mean, like, I'm assuming it was like injuries because he wasn't really the typist type.
Gotcha.
You know.
Yeah.
But he couldn't play exactly the right grace notes as they're written down, you know. But I mean, he could teach them very well, and he was incredibly patient. But he never played synthetic reeds to the last time I saw him. And he's passed away now, probably 10, 15 years ago. But the last time I saw him, he was still playing cane reeds, and everybody else is doing these, carbon fiber this and synthetic that.
Really?
And always had a smoking sounding set of pipes.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course they're worth $5,000 or something,
Yeah.
silver and ivory, but yeah. And then so Charlie was running the Suncoast Scottish Pipes and Drums, and then Jimmy Bell, who is runs Lion College, he's director of Scottish Arts there. Jimmy Bell was coming down from Clare at the time. He lived in Clearwater, and he and I, he was running our band sort of with Charlie. He was like the pipe sergeant, I think, or pipe major, and just kind of like background instructor type position. And then he said, I have some stuff for you. He called me Pippin. He calls me Pippin to this day.
Oh yeah? Is this a Lord of the Rings thing, or did it just feel right?
I don't know. I just
maybe it was
made
Scottie
sense.
Pippen. Did you have crazy hair at the time, or?
I don't know. I had short hair at the time, but Jimmy. I mean, I don't know if you met Jim, but he's not very tall. He's like 5'4", 5'5", something like that. But then of course there's me.
Wait, am I thinking of the wrong? Who was the Bulls player who was always painting their hair? That wasn't Scottie Pippen, was it?
Oh no, I think that was
Dennis Rodman. I was thinking Dennis
yeah.
Rodman. Ah, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry
North
to
Korea.
interrupt you. Carry on.
Oh no, it's all good. North Korea. Dennis Rodman didn't he get married in a dress?
I think he married himself. I think I think he was wearing half a dress and half a suit or something like that. This is probably worth Googling. You carry on with your story. I'm going to dig into some Dennis Rodman stuff here.
him and Kim Jong-un.
That's right. Yeah, they had their thing. Huh? You go hang out in North Korea.
Yeah. God, what a tragedy that place is. But yeah, so Jim came down and he brought me some music, some stuff outside of the. I mean, he could tell that I was kind of chomping at the bit, moving beyond the. I mean, we were a grade 5 band, so, and it's great for everybody at some point or another in their piping career to be a part of or lead a grade 5 band, because that that's the way it should be. I mean, you should have to go through it because I mean, there's no better way to learn how to manage and deal with people than that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Because you've got the hobbyists, and you've got the get away from the wife types, and you've got the you got the whole shebang, the whole gamut of different personalities. But anyway, then Jim had me. He said, Pippin, why don't you come to my place on Saturday, and we'll start going over some Pibroch. And so I drove this is back in 1997. So, gas was not terribly expensive, which is a good thing because I had a '77 Lincoln Town Coupe, which had a 460 in it with a 4-barrel. So you can imagine I'm getting 8 miles to the gallon in the city.
I was gonna say that's one of those where you can watch the needle on the fuel level go down as you accelerate.
Yeah, each time you rev the engine, that's torque, the engine torque. Yeah, that's fuel leaving the system.
Yeah, yep.
But that so I drove that thing all the way to Clearwater every Saturday, and Jim would teach me P-Rock, and it was one of the coolest. Thinking back, it was cool as hell, and I was really awkward, man. Like, I wish I could go back in time and sponge up more of that time because that's like once. I mean, you don't get that kind. I mean, think about it. Just Jimmy Bell, and here's me, just me and Jimmy learning P-Rock.
That's awesome that he was so open to like inviting you into that. That's
yeah.
He surely had other things he could have been doing.
Yeah.
To introduce P-Brook to this awkward kid, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. And never charged me a nickel for it either, which is cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Some people, man, are just really, really generous. It's inspirational.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to been able to be introduced to a guy like Jim, because I mean, knowing now what I know about him, I mean, think about that stuff that he had tutelage from Donald McLeod. I mean, that kind of blows me away, and he's got copies of music with handwritten notes on it from Donald McLeod.
Well, do you ever sit back in awe, realizing that you're only a step away from Donald McLeod in your pedagogy now?
Yeah. Well, it's
Look
at
you.
Like a giant leap. Yeah, but no, I mean, like, I didn't. God, I hadn't thought about it until you put it like that. But
yeah,
no, I'd like to steal a bunch of his notes. Is what I'd like to do. But no, he's out in Arkansas now, and I still keep in touch with him.
Yeah.
I think he still smokes like a chimney, or he did back then.
That might be an important part of his success right there. So don't make him stop.
Yeah, but and so at the same time I was going to get lessons from Jimmy Bell. There was Roddy McDonald, I think was his name. He was the guy that Grand Altogether. That guy. I don't know if you ever met him or heard about him. But
I'm Googling him right now.
Yeah, it was like his. It was like his tagline. Oh, it's just Grand Altogether. And he was another chain smoker. He's the guy that taught me how to tie in a bag.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I remember. This will tell you how much expensive piping has gotten, and I hope you're cutting out all the awkwardness here in post. But
keeping it all, man.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. I remember. Okay, when I bought my first set of bagpipes was some maker called Dobie. I've never heard of anything about him since then. Yeah. Apparently made for Kintail at some point or another. But I bought that set of pipes from a guy we called Fast Eddie, who was about 110 years old. For $450, and they had a small bag on it.
Wait, his name was Fast Eddie?
No, we called him Fast Eddie because he was, he's old and falling apart.
Yeah, are you sure he's not still alive? Because there's a Fast Eddie who sounds like he might be old and falling apart who calls into the TheDroningOnPodcast podcast every now and again.
I don't know. This guy was like 90 back then, so he'd be a record setter if he were alive today.
I wonder if these Fast Eddie calls are coming from the other side. Maybe that's what's going on. I'll get the TheDroningOnPodcast boys looking into this. We'll get Eric Avenhouse. He's a ghost hunter. We'll get him into this. We'll figure out where these are coming from.
There you go. But the small bag on them had to be swapped out.
I also got started on a small bag and very quickly realized that was not going to work.
No, are you a big guy? Are you like tall?
I think I was 6'3" or 6'4" when I was like 12 years old and started playing. Like, I haven't grown much since then.
Jesus,
but,
you were a tall kid.
I did all my growing, well, vertically at least. I've expanded horizontally since then, but
I
all
did
the
that
vertical
too.
growth was early.
Yeah, see, that's my secret to not looking any older is I just gain weight and then so the wrinkles never actually develop into fissures.
Yeah, that's it.
I just stay shiny and tight.
Out. Yep.
Exactly. So but apparently extended smalls are kind of a thing now. Like Livingston, I think there's that size,
Yeah.
But so we swapped out that. Okay, so the point I was driving at, I bought an L&M hide bag, an elk hide bag. Back in '96 or '7 for $79. Now, what does a Ganaway cost nowadays? Like $295 or something?
I was gonna say $300. I haven't had to buy one in a long time, but I think that's the range. Yeah.
Yeah, they're spendy, and what's really weird is pipes haven't gotten that much more expensive. Because I remember when I first started, I was drooling over the David Nail or Shepherd, like the military regulation ones that comes fully mounted in ivory.
Right.
Back then they were like $1,100 or $1,200, and I think they're about the same now.
Yeah, it's about what you expect. Oh, okay. I am looking right now. I see that Henderson actually has a plain Ganaway bag, like no zipper or anything, for $240. So I bet once you add the zippers and stuff, if you do grommets, that kind of stuff, I bet it is around 300. But yeah,
there you go.
That's around there.
Yeah. So, I mean, what does that say for inflation? Now, why is leather getting more expensive, but blackwood, which is apparently becoming more scarce, is about the same?
Yeah, I think you'd think we'd have more cows since though that was elk hide, huh? Maybe the elk population is what's suffering.
Was it elk hide? Because I remember them talking about like it just being tanned in elk oil. And then, of course, that raises the question: what the hell is elk oil?
Yeah, how do you squeeze oil from an elk, huh?
They're not friendly animals either. So, like, where are you getting this? Yeah, there's a whole herd of them. They're just milking them or something.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. Like, as we're talking about bagpipe parts and stuff, like since starting, has your like standard set of pipes that you play most often? Have you changed your instrument a lot? Just because I'm kind of leading toward, eventually making some. I'm curious if you'd hopped around different makers and stuff like that and tried different sets of drones and thought, oh, I like this, I don't like that, or have you had the same thing from the beginning?
Oh, are you talking about the bores?
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Just like, I mean,
oh yeah.
Because like personally, I've only ever had one set of pipes, and so I'm curious. Like, have you tried different stuff and started thinking, I like that, I don't like that, or
Yeah, I've always been kind of sorry. One of my terrible habits, I vape, but it sure beats smoking cigarettes and dipping. So
yeah, that'll make you more authentic, right, for the piping.
Right, for sure. You certainly smell more like a pipe. But no, I've always kind of gravitated towards the brighter sounds, and I tell you, the best set of drones I ever heard. And you're on piping long enough, you hear like, oh, those are those phenomenal this, that, the other maker. Best set of pipes I ever heard. Were Jimmy Bell's dad's pipes, and they were like 1953 or 54, so R.G. Hardy's, back when he was playing Kane Reeds. There was nothing like it, man.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like it. And he switched to playing easy drones with a Kane bass, and the life was gone from
You could tell, huh?
Oh my God, like a mile away.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Huh.
But I've always, they had a real bright, kind of metallic, hollow, shimmery kind of sound.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went that direction. And then, I've tried different things and opened up, like a lot of the stability in the instrument comes from the bell. And a lot of it, believe it or not, comes from the shape of the stock.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
that's interesting. I would not have guessed the stock would have had much effect. So that's
well, yeah, I didn't either. And getting in and playing with this stuff, but like anything else, or like you take a in aviation, we talk about static pressure goes down as velocity increases through fluid, right? So if the stock is a straight tube, then the velocity of the air is going to be the same. If the stock is tapered towards the drone, then the velocity is going to increase as it gets towards the drone.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
that's interesting.
There's something to be said for
that's interesting. That makes me think of Donald Lindsay, who's he's does some 3D printed instruments. Has talked about like messing with how to open and close the shape of the hole, basically the hole through which air passes before getting into or on its way into a small pipe stock that's got all the drones in it. And I think he was chasing what's called phase locking for the sound. That's coming out of the drones. I could be mistaken about that phraseology there, but that's just interesting that you say that connects in my mind with like this idea that if you adjust that shape, you do make a difference on how the sound comes out.
Yeah. So the thing about that, like it's like you can get a large volume of air moving relatively slowly, or you can get a smaller volume of air moving relatively quickly, and the end total is the same, right? And then you can accomplish two different things based on how you approach it that way.
Very interesting.
So it's kind of like a turbofan versus a turbojet, right?
So
turbojets are faster, but fans are
right.
efficient.
Yeah. So tell me real quick how you got into Denver, and then I want to hear about how you got into piping, and then we'll bring those things together. Or I said piping, I meant printing, but go on.
Printing. I came out here back in 2019. My mother, her pancreatic cancer returned, and so I came out. I was a nurse, and so I came out to kind of help take care of her in her final days. And it was a blessing. We knew when it was going to happen. Colorado has something called medical assistance in death, and so you see a doctor twice. The doctor writes a prescription of a lethal combination of drugs, very specific to that purpose. It's not like they're being sneaky about it.
Right.
It's sanctioned and it's understood that it's what's going to happen. And it was a blessing because the end of pancreatic cancer is not pretty.
Yeah.
And, So anyway, not to go down that road, but that's what brought me out here, and Colorado is so much prettier than Florida, and it's not as hot, at least not year round.
Yeah, some people might argue with you about the prettiness, but definitely there's no arguing about the heat difference.
Oh, for sure. I like seasons, and funny thing happens, you have them here. It's crazy. So I stuck around out here and got involved, and I took a job in aviation out here and was loving it, and then COVID hit, and then of course my job was redundant, and I was one of the first to go, and I was like, wow, this sucks.
Did you find have you found a pipe band there in Colorado yet?
Well, there's several of them here.
Yeah.
I really ought to do more of that, but I went to a few practices for one of them here, and it didn't seem like it was a good fit.
Sure.
But I don't have much, honestly. I say I don't actually work a day in my life now that I'm doing this. I enjoy the hell out of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
With the 3D printing, I wouldn't call myself a pipe maker because there's a lot more involved in what those guys do. But I consider myself a maker in the sense that nowadays colloquially it's we term ourselves as makers in 3D printing realm.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't classify myself in the same as those guys.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do, I think, is important in the piping community, because I don't know if you got it, but I certainly did. The first set of bagpipes I ever bought, not knowing any better, was made in Pakistan and was basically suitable to hang on the wall or probably the short leg of the couch.
Yeah. No, I was really lucky in that I was surrounded by very knowledgeable and capable pipers when I got started, but I encounter this all the time at the free class that our band does, and people email me a lot saying, hey, my kid wants to learn, I want to learn, my grandson wants to learn, etc. And I've got just a copy-paste statement for every email like that before anything else. All caps, do not buy bagpipes yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many times people showed up with like, oh, I spent $200 or $300 on this, and it's like, man.
And I got the whole kit. It even came with a case and extra reeds and everything.
Yeah, and I've tried to make some of those sets work. Like, I've tried so hard, and I've never got a whole set working.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny. Charlie Murray, going back to my beginning, Charlie Murray grew up. In his neighborhood where he grew up, there was a bagpipe maker in his neighborhood.
Oh, really?
And, Charlie had a loaner set of pipes that I played until I bought Fast Eddie's pipes, his Dobies. And they were actually a Pakistani-made set of bagpipes that the bagpipe maker that had lived in Charlie's neighborhood where he grew up had gone through and remanufactured, so they actually sounded solid.
Like rebore them and stuff like that.
Yeah, he cleaned them up. I don't know what he did to them, but yeah, he went through them. It's the weirdest set of pipes I've ever seen. It had pewter mounts, like soup to nuts. It was crazy looking.
That actually sounds kind of cool.
They were kind of sharp looking.
Yeah.
They were nailed on there.
They were nailed on?
They were like with finishing nails. Yeah, they were
That's
nailed
unique.
It was different, for sure.
I'm kind of surprised that there wasn't, like that the wood lasted long enough, I would think a pressure point from a nail, especially in a humid place like Florida. I don't know, maybe the humidity actually would help, huh? Help it not split.
I don't know, because I talked to Peter Chrysler about 15 years ago, and he said there's so much resin. Like people talk about oiling your drones and stuff.
Yeah.
He told me, and I don't know if it's true. He said there's so much resin in blackwood that it's almost completely useless to oil your drones.
That makes sense. I still do it up here, but like I remember my pipes. They used to have a varnish finish on the outside, and I removed that a couple years ago because I wanted more of a matte finish.
Nice.
And since then, I also, several of my friends work in the essential oils business, including my buddy Kevin, who's been on the show before, and my friend Zach, who I talk a lot about. Several of his family members also work in the essential oils business. And so I have a bucket in my shed that is a cocktail of some of the fanciest and most expensive essential oils on the out there. But like I get them free, like factory surplus and stuff like that. It smells amazing, and I have friends over every once in a while. We do an oiling party, and we just there. I would imagine there's probably at least some intake because we're absolutely immersing our unvarnished drones right into this bucket. Anyway,
yeah, I would think there has to be some kind of utility to it, otherwise it wouldn't have passed down. I mean, it's not just bagpipers that do it either.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and up here, Utah and Colorado, where you're at as well, it's so darn dry. Like, man, it would make me nervous to leave them completely alone. But.
Yeah, for sure. I am growing painfully accustomed to the dry weather. I never had to worry about lotion like I did here in Colorado. It's the craziest thing. My sister jokes around. She's like, "Yeah, you got to lube up every time you walk out the door here."
Yep, especially we're coming up on lotion season right now. About the time October hits, that's when my knuckles start cracking, man.
Yeah, what is that, dude? That never happened to me before.
I think
my fingertips.
I think it's because of there's the movement, right? You're moving your fingers, so they bend right there. But then I think it's because of going in and out of your pockets. It gets so much worse for me when I've got when I'm out on a job site or something where I'm pulling tools out of my pockets a lot. Just takes all the oil right away off of your natural skin oils, and bloody knuckles all winter, man.
Oh yeah, and then you throw some sort of a defatting agent like that used to kill me when I was an aircraft mechanic. Man, we'd have like toluene and acetone, all these chemicals. Phenomenally good for you long term, I'm sure. But like,
dip your hands in this; it'll give you a little bit of sickness, right?
Yeah. But some of the old timers I worked with, man, they were washing their hands in trichloroethane, just rinsing them off of that. Or MEK. Sometimes I'm like, dude, you do not know. And that's just, this is why OSHA tells us that the average lifespan of a mechanic after retirement is 18 months. I'm like, well, that's why. Because his body's dissolving.
Been swishing with acetone his whole life.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, my skin does not do well out here. So I got Aquaphor on tap.
Yeah.
Big keg of it in the bathroom.
Well, when did 3D printing come into your, like, had you been doing 3D design stuff before? Like, was this a Florida thing, or did you just pick it up recently?
No, actually, that came up here. It was, I had just started a different career, so it was a totally different thing for me. I was doing retirement planning, believe it or not. And I was making killer money, helping people, and that was a really fun. When things were going well, it was really fun.
Yeah.
But when things weren't going well, it was a grind, dude.
Yeah.
But I had some extra time and a lot of extra income, and I was like bored, and so I'm like, I need a hobby. And I was, I'd every once in a while on YouTube stuff, because I don't watch TV. My TV is a smart TV, so it has it's constantly glued to YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. And every once in a while, a 3D printing video would come up in my feed, and it sort of kind of piqued my interest. And I learned about it, and back in spring of 2020, I bought my first 3D printer, and it was under $300. So I was like, it's not that expensive.
Yeah.
And I got tooling around with it, and I thought, at the time, so here's what's really funny. At the time, I didn't have a bagpipe.
Oh, really?
And so I was like, I wonder if there's plans. And so you mentioned Donald Lindsay. I actually found Donald Lindsay's plans.
Yeah.
And I started fiddling around with them and printed out my first set of bagpipes with a 3D printer. And they needed some changes to get to be mass producible.
Yeah.
So I basically started over with them.
Yeah.
And some of my friends were like, I was blown away because after some work, they sounded really good.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way this just came off a 3D printer.
Yeah.
I mean, why is everybody not doing this? And I guess, I don't know.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think there are probably multiple reasons. And I don't know if maybe I don't know. I'd imagine that maybe we kind of are both thinking in similar ways. Like, I don't know. Something that I really like about Donald Lindsay is that all of his projects, whether it's the Lindsay System chanter or the drones or the whistles, he's completely open with all of it. It's like, here are the plans, here are the dimensions, here's how I do it. His Lindsay system, the system for the chanter, any other maker who wants to make it can make it, And he's talked before about how part of that is because he thinks that that's the only way that it's going to get sort of be viable. You can't, if he tries to guard his secrets,
Yeah.
he won't be able to get enough people out there interested in his secrets fast enough before he's dead. You know, like you got to get it out there. But
I haven't been able to talk with him much. I've shot him a couple emails. I was interested in his small pipes. I wanted to send him his small pipes. What does he do? Is he an engineer or something?
I believe he worked in plumbing at some point. Was it plumbing? I believe so. And then most recently, from what I can tell, he's just moving from island to island around the British Isles.
Wow.
Making bagpipe stuff. I think his wife does social work, and so she's getting jobs around, and capturing interesting audio recordings of birds and stuff. Like basically just living the dream. I think that's the impression I have.
That what do they call it? Bohemian lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. You know, I've never played with his Lindsay system chanter.
I've got one here. It's super cool.
What is so? It's I've seen the video clip of him playing like way above and below.
Yes.
Right? And then you sent me one of your chanter.
Right, yeah, and he's been helping me test stuff out with that one, and so I'm really excited about it. So what I'm working with, kind of some of the concepts do cross over, using flea holes to like kick the air pressure into different gears and stuff like that. But the Lindsay system chanter is unique in that it's like if you could imagine taking a small pipe chanter and making it like twice as long as a typical small pipe chanter. Of course, you couldn't play that, right? But he basically folds it in half.
Okay.
And then you use fingers that usually aren't being utilized, right? Your lower hand
left
thumb
pinky.
and your left pinky and all that to control the holes. Because of course, as it gets lower and lower, right, the holes are further and further apart. Then you fold it in half, right? And that's way overly simple, you know. That's a really simple overview. You look at his most recent iterations. There's a lot of work that's going into this for sure, but yeah, it's a very interesting system. It gives you like over 2 octaves, bunch of accidentals, really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like I was very intrigued by the John Walsh shuttle pipes. Like how the hell?
Oh, yeah.
That happen? Like I didn't know how that worked. And he's got passages I guess drilled in there, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how because it's all wood, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does it make the turd? Does he got to drill? I don't know. I didn't want to take it apart and bust it up to find out how.
Right, that's an expensive experiment to do. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, his it's similar to that, I guess. Then.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. I've never looked at the inside of a set of shuttle pipes, but I could imagine that's how you get the length, right? To get that sound out of such a small shuttle.
Yeah, I've got one of my customers has asked me to print her out an uilleann pipe chanter, or uilleann pipe chanter, and I don't know anything about uilleann pipes, so I'm like, yeah, I guess I please don't hold me accountable for any kind of sound or tonal qualities.
Yeah. I heard a guy playing a printed uilleann pipe chanter a little while ago, and it sounded surprisingly good, you know. And that's probably part of the resistance, right? All of us, even myself, who tinkers with this stuff, I'm surprised. I say surprisingly good, right? You know, so that's probably part of the resistance to the idea, right? It's like we just don't expect it to work for some reason, right?
Right. And I think that maybe because there's that sort of like almost gatekeeper sort of attitude that a lot of people have about this stuff. Like, well, you don't know what you're doing, so you can't touch this, you know. But she's asked me to print her out an uilleann chanter, and I've looked at the plans, and I've got the plans. It's like I don't know how this goes together. I said, I tell you what I'll do. I'll print the big parts in pink because I'm pretty sure that's the main part of it. Oh, yeah. And all these little fittings and stuff, I'm going to print those in black, and then I'll send it all to you, and you can kind of sort of...
She can do the puzzle.
And she's excited about it, yeah. She's fired up. So I'm interested to see if it works for her.
Yeah.
I would hate for it to, not work.
Well, tell me, before we dive into sort of the philosophy and stuff like that, just in case anybody listening is in suspense right now, tell me about the company and what you do. What is 3D printed bagpipes and all that stuff? Yeah, so basically the philosophy of my company is I'm not trying to compete with the big guys, with the legacy makers, McCallum and Henderson and Shepard and all these guys. Those pipes are worth every penny. I'm trying to put something out there for folks who don't have that kind of financial bankroll available. That isn't, I'm trying to put something out there that sounds good, that is available to people, to compete with the wall hangers, the Amazon bagpipes, that they're playable. You could take my pipes to band practice and they sound good, and you could play them in competition. I mean, I played them in solos.
In fact, Ralph, you saw the orange and blue bagpipes.
Right.
He played him. He played him in grade 1 and won a couple of second places with him.
Did he?
which I'm surprised the judge wasn't like, just get out of here, dude.
Right. Yeah.
But he pulled it off. But yeah, the idea is, they're affordable, approachable bagpipes that sound solid. They're not heirloom sets. I don't pretend to be in that category.
Yeah.
But there is nothing. If you think about it, there's nothing in bagpiping that is entry level, right? It's basically practice chanter to $1,000 or $900 or $800 or whatever. There's nothing in the middle, and I'm trying to put something there for folks. And the other thing is, like I said, I tried guitar, piano, trumpet, bass guitar, growing up. My buddy in Florida, Fabio, is a college buddy of mine. Yes, his name is really Fabio. His
Poor
daughter
kid.
played. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a riot. We played brain bowl together in college. But his daughter has a $3,000 saxophone that she had to have when she was playing in middle school, and he bought it for her, and now she has left it in the garage.
Yeah.
$3,000 saxophone. So what about the parents that are, their kids being nurtured and playing a practice chanter, and Mom, Dad, teacher says I'm ready to get a set of pipes. Let's get a set of pipes. And parents are all like, yeah, let's do it. And they find out it's $1,200.
Right.
And this is going to be a fad, What if
Yeah.
it's a fad? The kid goes to high school and his rival high school plays the bagpipe band.
Right.
And decides it's not worth it, So.
But you don't want to, what a rough position for the parent to be in, wanting to be supportive.
Yeah.
But you can't
yeah,
be.
exactly.
You essentially can't be supportive, right, in some cases.
Right. Yeah, and it's not like you can rent. I mean, how many stores are going to rent out a bagpipe?
Oh yeah, I've gone and pitched it to local music stores before, and one of them actually had done it before I went and asked them apparently, and they said it just wasn't worth it to them because it's such an expensive instrument, and so then when it gets damaged, it comes back to them. They don't know how to clean it. There's just all kinds of problems.
Yeah, and that brings up another point. Damage. Kids are rough on rats, right? If you break a section of a piping, piece of my bagpipe, it's $25 or $30 to replace a tenor bottom section or whatever. It's not $250 if you got to send it away to Scotland and wait 4 to 6 weeks to get it.
Right. Yeah.
The idea is I want something available for people that's entry level. It'll get them started, and then while they're playing this, they can save up the money to get an heirloom set.
Yeah.
Also,
though, the other angle seems to be novelty too, right? Like you mentioned the orange and blue bagpipes, right? I'm imagining if I had a high school pipe band, I would be like, hey, what if we got sets of pipes like drones in our school colors, or have a holiday set that I could bust out for a Christmas concert or something like that.
I actually just took an order this morning from a woman who wants a Kelly green set for St. Patrick's Day.
There you go. Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I hadn't even mentioned that. I'm glad you brought it up. Custom colors are a huge part of what I do.
Yeah.
The filament. It's weird. I just lowered my prices. Right. They were $305 for a set of drones, or $314 for a set of drones, I think, or something like that. I don't remember, and I just lowered them to $265.
Yours is the only business doing the opposite of inflation at present.
Which is exactly my philosophy, right? My filament cost just went up. Everything just went up.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's ridiculous. I mean, nobody's making as much money, and they're charging more for everything. What is going on?
Yeah.
But anyway, custom colors are a thing. Ralph wanted orange and blue. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. When he and I exchanged emails probably for a week before the order actually came in, and I was perfectly polite and professional, and I was like, he said, "What about blue for the drones, and this orange silk filament for the mounts?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's all you, man. I thought he was a Gators fan, a Broncos fan. I didn't know what was going on. And I was like, I'm going to wait till the check clears before I order anything for this guy, And sure enough, the check cleared, it came through. And he emailed me pictures of him, time, and I'm like, this dude was dead serious.
He was serious. There's a tune, I can't remember, I think it's a Strathspey that's called The Orange and the Blue. Maybe it's a march.
Yeah, I used to play that tune in the band I played with in Orlando. Yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great Strathspey. But yeah, I got folks that do things like that. I'm trying to design up a set of Scottish small pipes right now.
Yeah.
I've got a set of I've got some chalice top medieval like antique style bagpipes that I've just got to post photos of that are going to be up on the site.
Oh,
And,
Dave, I have, if it'd be helpful to you, I bought a full set of AD combo small pipe set plans from a maker who went out of business a little while ago.
Really?
I can send you some pictures just if you want to be able to look at dimensions and stuff. It's got bore sizes and everything on it, so I can send you some photos of that.
That would be phenomenal. Who was the maker?
Hope was the last name.
Hope.
Yeah.
Huh. That's cool. Yeah, dude, I would love that. I'll send you a set of drones for that.
Wait and see if it's actually. I'll send it to you, and then if it's like really useful and you get rich off of it, I'll take a set of drones. You bet.
There you go.
But you can wait till you get rich first.
Yeah, well, that sounds fair. Yeah.
And I also want to make clear that like of course these prices may well move in future. But what will remain consistent is that this is, like you say, a price comparable option when you look at the non-playable instruments, but it's actually a playable instrument, and that's the whole idea. That would remain consistent. So.
Right, exactly. It will always be. My goal is no matter what, it will always be an economical entry level price that parents can afford for their kids, or people can afford as a novelty. As you pointed out, like holiday, red and green for Christmas, or whatever the affair happens to be. But one of the here's the other thing. One of the reasons I'm able to keep my overhead or keep my prices as low as they are is I do this out of my home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'd like to keep it that way. Right now, my printing operation, if you can call it that, is 4 printers in my walk-in closet, and that closet is about 110 degrees. So I don't have to buy a printing enclosure.
The money that you're going to save on your heating bill over the winter just by opening the closet door.
Absolutely, we're ducting the whole house right to my closet. Never mind the plastic fumes, everybody. It's fine.
That's right.
But
that actually reminds me. Do you do it all PLA or do you do ABS as well, or other materials?
So I'm right now through PLA Plus and silk PLA for some of the mounts, but I'm moving towards PETG for the temperature, durability of it. But the PLA Plus, man, there's this PLA Plus I've been using. I'm just wild over it. It's called Duramic.
And
that's Duramic PLA Plus. That stuff is tougher than nails, dude.
Yeah.
It's like rhino lining tough. I remember because I would print. When I first started printing, I had like 50% of the parts that would come off the printers and have to toss because I couldn't get the support material clean off of them enough so that they looked good.
Yeah.
And it was because that Duramic stuff was so damn tough. I couldn't get it off there. But now I print in a way that it doesn't require support, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Duramic is the mods when it comes to tough PLA Plus. Just plain old PLA. It's super easy to print. PETG maybe. Eventually, I'm gonna go to ABS probably, but there's so many things that are like carbon fiber nylon would be cool too.
Oh yeah. But I tried a wood infused ABS once. Yeah. It had like bamboo sawdust in it.
Yeah.
One thing that I liked about it is it actually smelled like smoky wood as it was coming out. It was a very pleasant smell, which probably actually wasn't good because I was probably taking in more fumes than I usually would have. Just because it smelled nice.
Like the butadiene fumes as well.
Yeah. But it was interesting that like anything that it was printing that was smaller, so the nozzle stayed on it for longer, would actually darken just because the wood was getting burnt. It made for an interesting kind of color effect too.
So like when the nozzle does the ironing stuff, it's darkening up the wood.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of throwing in. Maybe you can give me some feedback on this. What do you think? I was thinking of doing this. I found an ebony infused PLA.
Ooh.
And it's a little more expensive than regular PLA.
Yeah.
But not by much. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about having that as an offering and seeing what the acoustic cartridges are a little different. I played with it, and it's a little different. It's subtle, but it is different.
Yeah.
It's got like 20% ebony powder in it, and then the binder, of course, is the PLA plastic.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the acoustics, maybe this is a good place to insert this. So, let's see. I want to make sure we set it up well, because the idea here is like affordability, whether that's for novelty or just for getting started, or your second set for when it rains or anything like that, right?
Yeah, the foul weather set. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But you're making very clear that like you are not trying to say like ignore the McCallums, right?
No.
By this
sure
instead, this is really occupying a space where we need instruments in this price range. And it's an actual instrument. And so what people are hesitant though sometimes, especially if we are already in piping, because we think, oh, plastic. And I mean, I remember when the first Erlen sets, or at least that I knew of, in the polypanco sets, right, were coming out.
And like were the first ones I saw.
I think that was the first set that I heard as well.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I turned my nose up at it, but I don't think I actually knew what I was talking about. Honestly, I've heard plenty of poly sets at this point that sound awesome, and maybe it's because I don't have a very distinguishing ear, but often I could not tell the difference if I'm honest with myself. You know.
Right, and that particular polymer is so dense that there's very little difference in terms of resonance. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, the polypanco sets, I mean, the way the bores are like supremely easily polished with those things. Polishing, whether or not polishing is necessary in a bagpipe, that's kind of debatable. I kind of lean towards the realm of it's not really necessary, because you're never going to get a laminar flow out of a bagpipe. Let's be honest here, and that's what polishing would do.
So rough interior walls maybe are not making that big a difference then.
Well, I think pipe makers. I think they should get it as clean as they need to be, but let's not spend hours making them like mirror shiny. I think that's unnecessary effort. Sorry, not to go off on a tangent, but there's your tangent.
No, it's all interesting, man. This is what the conversation's all about. So let's insert some audio samples here. Okay, here I am in post work doing the edit before releasing the episode, and I'm going to insert here some sound samples. We'll have sound sample A, then B, and then C. And the two questions that I invite you to ponder are, number one, which one of these samples, A, B, or C, is the 3D printed drones? And the second question I'd invite you to keep in mind is, which one of these samples do you like the most? Or do you like all of them, right? Because, of course, like we were saying in the conversation, like I do think that it's important to keep in mind that this isn't just about poo-pooing versus, it doesn't have to be negative like that, but, it's not just about distinguishing the materials. It's also like, well, does it sound good or doesn't it? It can be as simple as that. So here's sound sample A. Here's sound sample B. Here's sound sample C. Okay, now I'm going to give those to you one more time, kind of in more rapid succession. So here's A. Here's B. Here's C. Okay. Which one is the 3D printed set? And also, which one did you like the most? Okay, going to give you a minute. Okay, here comes the answer. The answer is, the 3D printed set was B. Okay, now we're going to do it again. We got another set of samples here. Again, one of these in here is the 3D printed set. So we've got sample A. Here's sample B. And here's sample C. Which one of those was the 3D printed set of drones? Give them to you one more time in more rapid succession here. Here's A. Here's B. And here's C. Which one of those was the 3D printed set? I'm going to tell you here in 3, 2, 1. Trick question, none of them. Ha ha ha. All right, let's do it just one more time. Just one more of these. I won't do another trick question, I promise. One of these really will be a 3D printed set of drones. Okay? So here's sample A. Here's sample B. And here is sample C. One more time in slightly more rapid succession. Here's A. And B. And C. So, which one of those was the 3D printed set of drones? I'm going to tell you in 3, 2, 1. A. It was sample A that time. So, first of all, could you tell? And secondly, does it matter? Does it still sound good? Personally, I like the way they sound. I think they sound great, especially considering the price point. I think it's remarkable, and it makes me feel a little less stressed with the plethora of children that my wife and I have produced, many of whom are likely to head toward piping eventually during their lives. It's a a real boon to folks like me, and it also makes me feel excited about thinking about like cool novelty sets and stuff like that I might have done in the future. So, if it'd be fun, get on the Facebook page. Find the Droning On Podcast on Facebook, or message me on Instagram. Same thing, droning.on.podcast, or send me an email, TheDroningOnPodcast@gmail.com. And let me know, did your ear nail it every time? Did you know exactly which ones were 3D printed? Were you surprised? Are you surprised in a positive way? Are you upset about this idea? And would you like to never, ever see 3D printed drones? I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. Send me emails or let me know on social media and stuff. And, remember to leave positive reviews for the show and buy stuff at bagpipeswag.com and become a patron if you want to. And I do drawings for cool stuff. Patreon.com/DroningOnPodcast. All the standard stuff. There's stuff in the show notes, including links to Dave's projects, these 3D printed drones and all that. And back to the interview. Have a good one. Bye. People to consider also, like, there's the one question, can you tell if it's 3D printed versus wood? That's a question. If I think about it much, though, it begins to seem to me like, does that question even matter? And maybe the more important question is, does this sound nice?
Right. It's so subjective, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I have heard people just rave about drones and thought, they don't sound bad, but I don't think they're that good.
Yeah.
And then, totally, it's just absolutely subjective. It's like people will talk about drone sounds like wine.
Totally, yeah.
It's a mischievous, oaky finish, with a lyrical backdrop of But yeah,
when you take that saucy tenor drone and combine it with the gravelly overtones of the bass, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now that was aged in a certain barrel cask.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Well, this PLA was made in the southern region of China, so of course that's a little more humid in that area. So the PLA infuses a little more.
Yeah, right. Oh, I'm going to be holding on to mischievous as an adjective for describing drone sound for the rest of my life. That's awesome.
Well, one of the best things I ever heard Jimmy say about his drones is like, oh, you got to go for that big, warm, wet mushroom sound.
Big, warm, wet mushroom, huh?
And, I've got this hero worship as a 17-year-old kid. Like, I don't want to say, what are you talking about, dude? But sure enough.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I in no way do I feel like, I don't want this to come across as if I'm speaking like I'm being envious, nor that I'm saying like, just in no negative way do I intend this. But I am intrigued and excited by the way that you talk about this, because I'm sitting right next to a 3D printer right now that my friend Zach, who I've talked about on the show plenty of times before, that he purchased. And the idea was exactly the same. We had started this pipe band, and Zach was a really good piper who did get a lot of good people around him, just like you did as a young person getting good instruction. But as he got older, he really wanted to get more instruction, and often there was a cost barrier. And having recognized that, like, very much his personal mission into adulthood up until he passed away was to, like, get the best possible piping and drumming instruction to as many people as possible for free, right? Like, remove as many barriers as possible. And the barrier that he couldn't remove, like, he could remove the barrier of the cost of his own time, and we could put together like free materials for our pipe band class and stuff, but then the instrument cost, that was the barrier he couldn't get past. And so we were focusing more on practice chanters because we were thinking about beginners, right?
Sure.
But we talked about, like, we have good friends, Moral Bagpipes is here in Utah, and they make beautiful artisan bagpipes. Like, no two sets are the same, right? Just amazing alternative woods and stuff. And we didn't want in any way for it to seem like we were thumbing our nose at our friends, and being like, oh, don't buy their pipes, buy ours for cheap, like you're laying it out. Like the idea from the beginning was like, these are different categories, right? This is more utilitarian, really, to say here's something that's perfectly functional at a much more affordable price. Right. But having said that, Dave, I also don't want to sound like I'm saying, well, these will sound good enough for a little while, but throw them away as soon as you can. These also sound really good. Like, you could play these for the rest of your life and you wouldn't be in a bad situation. It's totally a good sounding thing, right?
So yeah, exactly. And I appreciate you saying that. And it's true. It's like, that's the only instrument I have is a set of the drums that I've 3D printed. And I enjoy. I have no problem playing. I've done it before. I have no problem playing these on boards. But Jim Nisbet in Florida, he's got a $5,000 set of silver Niagara Hendersons. He's looking to get a solid grade 1 pipeband player to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he's going to make these his primary. And I thought, God, what a compliment.
Mm.
But I mean, they're very, and that's the other thing, they're very light. They're not as heavy as the Delrin sets, so they're only a couple of 3 pounds.
Masked bands is a lot more pleasant with 3 pounds on your shoulder instead of
marching around the parade for an hour and a half. You're glad you're not carrying your full silver set of shepherds.
Yeah.
But they do sound solid, and they are competitive in tone for sure. But like I said, they're not. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not.
Right. Well, and I've seen, I've never made a bagpipe bag myself. I have a good friend, Swan, who's been on the show before. Has he made it? I think he did make his own bag, but he's gone down the bag rabbit hole a bit. Got some goat skin bags and stuff like that, kind of trying stuff out. But it seems to me like that is something someone can learn to DIY, and so I'm just thinking like, where, and again, your prices can change, right? But like where right now I'm looking like sub $300, I could get a full set of sticks and stocks.
Yep.
And then for whatever Tandy's gonna charge me for leather and some YouTube videos, I could put together a bag.
You know what? As a matter of fact, I think not to interrupt you,
no, go on.
The button mount set, I think I've got there under $200.
Oh my gosh, you're right. The microphone that I'm talking into was obscuring my vision of exactly that listing. You're right. Right now it's at 175. So yeah. I'm just thinking like, how much stuff do I actually have to purchase, and how much time do I actually have to put into it to put together a good set of bagpipes? It's a lot less than $1,200. This is, and again, not saying to if Henderson Imports is listening right now, not saying that people shouldn't be buying McCallum's from from your website. That's still the great standard, right? But like if you can't do that, like this is a great option.
It's like it's like your kid's first car. You're not going to
right.
Mercedes-Benz 500 SL or whatever. I don't know anything about Mercedes, but like the Cadillac, the latest Cadillac. That's not going to be the first car. And you're certainly not going to buy them a classic '65 Lincoln Continental, convertible.
Right.
That you want to hand down generation to generation. But the Toyota Corolla, it's getting them from point A to point B safely. Is definitely an option. And I think that, and it's something that I think that our art form has been very hungry for.
Yeah, totally.
The only thing that fills that niche is something that's unplayable. And it's kind of a drag.
Yeah, and maybe I'm thinking about it a lot because of where I'm at right now, where my oldest is learning, and I've got more kids after him, and I'm hoping they'll all play. I'm not pressuring them, but I'm hoping to be able to look ahead and be like, oh man, this is going to be way more manageable. Not only that, where they have they're small people still, instead of investing in a junior-sized set of pipes, I could get a full-size set of pipes that only weighs, with the bag and everything attached, like 5-6 pounds. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I made a custom blowpipe for somebody whose daughter is playing. I don't know. She must be very petite because I asked, and Jim has been actually hooked us up, the two of us, and her dad and I called the blowpipe the Super Shorty 5. It was 5 inches. 5 inches from mouthpiece to the bottom of the mouth.
That is teensy. Wow.
It was itty bitty, man. And I'm like, Brian, my pipes are very lightweight. It might be very suitable for her. He's like, well, she's already got a set of pipes, but I'll keep it in mind. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah. I didn't know. The shortest blowpipe I've ever seen. I mean, it was like the length of my mouthpiece.
Right. Yeah. I'm thinking like, how far could it be from like mouth to armpit? That's very.
Yeah. She must be tiny.
Can I?
How old she is either.
I want to ask you a little speculation question too, Dave, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you ever looked at like Spanish gaitas, Spanish bagpipes that sometimes they have like a really like what you might call like a tenor, like maybe a soprano drone? Like
I have heard. Yeah, I'm familiar with. I know of them, but I don't know anything about them.
A lot of times, if you have one of these soprano drones, it's like mid-bag, kind of near the belly button. It just plays even higher than the tenor drones, right?
Mm-hmm.
That or any set of small pipes that have not just a bass and tenor, but have also like a baritone. 3 or 4 or even 5 drone sets. I get really excited about messing around with the chords that my drones play. And one thing that I have dreamed about is like, how long could I get like a bass topper and put that on one of my tenors? Like, how long or short would I have to make stuff to be getting 2 or 3 different notes out of my drones? Where I could be playing like 2 A's and an E, or an A and an E that I could tune down to a D when I wanted to, or even have a 4th drone sticking out of my bag somewhere.
Like the mad scientist type.
Have you played with any stuff like that before?
You know what? I had thought it was like I said. I want to work on a set of small pipes. And
Yeah.
I would definitely. Well, I had a set of small pipes that I actually kind of restored and refurbished. They were Iona small pipes, and I don't think the guy's making them anymore. He's out of Australia. But I bought them from a guy in Malaysia, and I restored them. And you were talking about making a bag. I made a bag.
No, did you?
Yeah, I found some plans. It leaked like a sieve. It was ridiculous. But yeah, and it was a 4-drone set, but it had switches. It had a switch in there to swap from, because it had 2 chanters with it, a D and an A. But I always thought it'd be cool to have all 4 going at once. And
right.
I think with 3D printing and rapid prototyping, there's essentially no limitation on what you can do.
Yeah.
And you go down the road, the Irish with the Brian Borer bagpipe. Isn't it like a common stock Great Highland bagpipe thing that's got like a baritone drone or something on it?
Oh, I have seen stuff like that before, and then like a chanter with some switches on it to get you more accidentals and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Irish they always seem to have taken like the concept, the basic concept of the bagpipe, and no staccato, and then they just take it like, well, this goes to 12.
I'm going to keep the staccatos, thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
My friend Jeremy recently got some John Swain border pipes, and one of the drones is set up with a hole on the side of the drone.
Really?
So that you can put a plugger in there, right? And then that forces it to play the full length of the drone.
Oh, cool.
Right? You take the plug out of the hole on the side, now, the air's not going as far, right? And so then you get a different note, right? So you could have an octave, and then depending on where you put those holes, you could have a third or a fourth, etc. And that's one thing I have wondered about when I'm looking at your pipes. Like, could we figure out where the sweet spot is on a tenor drone top piece? That if I took a cork out of that hole, it would be on the side of the top piece. That it would kick from an A up to an E or something like that, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking like if I took the top of the bass drum and put it on the tenor drum, that would give me enough length. Because there's really like 3 different sections to the drum. Right? There's a tuning chamber, and there's like a straight run, and then there's a bell. Yeah, there's a lot of creative stuff we could do with this.
Yeah.
And that's the other challenge. So there's been a steep learning curve, right? Like there's a learning curve with learning like 3D printing. And as you know, with your printer, you have to learn the slicer stuff, and then you've got to learn how to manipulate models. I don't know how much modeling you've done or.
Oh, I'm like a preschooler with a really fat crayon. It's just silly.
Well, I'm not much. I'm like they give me magic markers. So, but I'm like learning Fusion 360 is like the CAD program. Yeah. There's another online called Tinkercad.
I have played with Tinkercad a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little. To me, it seems a little cartoony, but
yes.
Like, I think it essentially does the same stuff. But yeah, learning Fusion 360 has been a learning curve, man. It is not intuitive.
Yeah.
So that's this is one of the challenges with making small pipes. Like, I know kind of what I want to do. Yeah. I don't know what the measurements need to be. So the fact that you're sending some pictures of those plans, that's like huge.
Yeah, I'll send them today, man. I'll get them right over to you.
That'd be awesome. And then it's a matter of like what I can set up in Fusion 360, and then I can make the drums look like whatever I want to.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people go like the classic route, but I think it'd be cool to have a set of small pipes that look like they have Comey and Beating on them. I think it's kind of unique.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that would be unique. I've wondered too. This is not me telling you how to do your own business. I'm just like imagining, just having fun imagining, right? Like looking at the top, like the bell piece. Like, what if it was threaded? So I could unthread that bell and thread on a bell that looks like a dragon's head or a pirate ship. Just anything, right?
That's actually a really good idea, and not something I actually one of my customers. I am always open to like input like that, like ideas like that. What I'm kind of working on now, and this is a bit of a challenge, is threading the tuning pins because.
Oh yeah.
That's on any bagpipe, be it 3D printed or otherwise. Tuning pins are where they generally tend to break. Because I repaired a buddy's bass drum middle section tuning pin had broken off on his dad's pipes, and I repaired that for him.
That makes sense. I imagine, like, especially like in the circle, if you got the drone guy coming around behind you and they crank it up or down, and then snap.
Yeah. Or you drop them or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But like I figured threading the tuning pins, then they could just, I could replace, the tuning pins is easy to replace and super cheap, right?
Right, yeah. That makes sense.
And then mounts, like you're talking about the different bell shape. Well, one of my customers had just suggested threading the mounts so you can have different colors for different holidays or whatever. But I love input like that. I mean, if it's something that I could use, that sounds cool, or as opposed to something that's just meant to be irritating. I get a little bit of that, mostly for my brothers, but I get some of that. But yeah.
Well, I love this stuff, man. What do you know what's next, or is it kind of like gonna keep doing this, like what we were just talking about, and just kind of like see what happens next?
Well, so. No, you're not gonna have success in anything if you don't set goals, right?
Sure, yeah.
So my goals by the end of the year are to have a set, streamlined process. I know that sounds kind of like basic, but I mean, it's easy for my sister's helped out a lot with that.
With her Etsy shop, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she had that down. Of course, she from like late September to June, she stopped doing it, but she was just insane and insanely busy.
Yeah,
and it was driving her crazy. But she set up the process. Like that's my goal by the end of the year is to have a solid, set, streamlined process where I know what step, and then just have one dedicated printer for each section. Like, so this is tenor top sections, this is bass drum middle sections, this is just ivory, and just to continue to grow as an overall kind of overshadowing theme. That would be ideal.
Right.
But yeah, man, I want to grow. I want to take this thing as far as it can go. I mean, I'm getting believe it or not, most of the orders, of course, I'm getting are not from beginners, not from people just starting out. I've had a couple of those. In fact, the young lady that wants me to set her up an uilleann chanter, she's just starting out.
Gotcha.
And but it's from folks who want a second set of pipes to just have in fact. One of my buddies from the Atlanta pipe band. I'm gonna skip that chapter. I did play with the Atlanta band for a while.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I ran that grade 4 back in 2008, I think. Back when John Reitnagle was running the grade. I think he's back running it again in grade 3. Bob Sloan from Atlanta, he had his pipes. He played in a parade or something, and the moisture got to the hemp, and it swelled up and split one of his bass drum pieces, and so he bought a set of my pipes to use in parades like that.
Yeah.
So that I'm seeing that's mostly where my business is at. People that have already established, looking for something fun.
That makes sense. I can understand that. Like that's where I'm at. I'm looking at this and being like, well, like I already kind of like know the territory, and so I know what I would want and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But I can't help just looking at this, and just thinking like, years ago, some friends and I went and talked to the local university about we had played, our pipe band had played a few soccer games for the intro to their soccer games, and we were like, why doesn't the school have a bagpiping club? Like we could help you set up a piping club and you get students learning, right? Or like my friend Diana, who runs the high school program where I learned to play, just I'm just looking at this and being like, man, if you wanted to get like a program off the ground, this is the best way to do it,
Well, there's a school in Orlando, a high school, Lake Highland Prep. They've got their mascot is the Highlanders, and one of the guys is trying to set them up with a bagpipe band, and I'm trying to coordinate a proposal and say, look, your colors are these, and let's set up a set of pipes, to outfit your bagpipe band. I can do it cheaper than anybody else.
Yeah.
In the exact colors that you have.
Right.
That would be cool as a cucumber, man. That'd be cool like the other side of a pillow. You have a whole band of matching bagpipes that are not, your standard blackwood and imitation ivory.
Yeah, man.
That'd be cool, man.
I think this is cool, and I also think that like, I hope that like understanding the philosophy behind it and like the space that it's trying to occupy helps to dissuade any of the initial sort of like snobbishness of like, look, this isn't attacking the traditional makers in any way, right? It's not trying to take away market share from the traditional makers. This is, in a lot of ways, capturing customers who would never become customers of the traditional makers because they're priced out of the hobby to start with.
That's a really good point. And it keeps people, exactly. It stokes a fire.
Yeah.
Otherwise, wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't be approachable.
The traditional makers might actually get more customers collectively if if there's an option like what you're making, because that that gets people in the door, and then years down the line, they're going to want to buy a Blackwood set.
Right. You know, you like a guitar player starts off with, you know, the $79 Sears Special or whatever,
Right.
and then eventually moves towards the 1974 Fender Stratocaster.
Right, yeah. In black,
you know,
that's right.
Exactly, with a whammy bar. You know?
Yeah.
We don't have whammy bars on bagpipes. It's kind of a drag,
Yet.
really.
That's
yeah, exactly.
There's another innovation for you to work on. Where's our chanter whammy bar?
That's exactly right. Oh my God, you just see it now. I was thought it would be cool to have, like, you remember Guitar Hero? I was like, there was a thing going around on YouTube.
Oh, Bagpipe Hero.
Bagpipe Hero.
Yeah.
Man, I thought that would be really. I could just wail at Bagpipe Hero, man.
The funny thing, of course, would be that like any legit bagpipe player would be like just abysmal at it, right? Because like if the controls didn't match it, right, you'd pick it up.
Right. Yeah, that'd be funny.
Well, and now you live in the land of South Park. Speaking of Guitar Hero.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. You know, when we were talking about like, oh, it's okay if you pop open a can of Coke and you took a sip from coffee, and I was immediately reminded of Randy when the comment was coming in, and he's like, oh my God, and then he sips from a cup of coffee.
That's right. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Have you gone to Casa Bonita yet? I think it's still there.
It is. I didn't. Okay, so I used to watch South Park like way back, like back in the day.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you know, but back in the day that was a Wednesday. Just in case
yeah, that was the day.
But I was out with some of my retirement planning colleagues, and we were having lunch in that area, in the same plaza that Casa Bonita was, and I just couldn't get over it. I was like, oh my God!
Did you keep looking out the window and saying Casa Bonita?
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's so cool. The cliff divers, it's so cool. And I couldn't get over it, man. And then the one lady who was sitting with me, she's like, yeah, that's the Casa Bonita from South Park. I was like, no way, it's a coincidence. She's like, no, dude, the guys from South Park bought it. Apparently, is this true?
I didn't know that.
I don't know. Yeah, I heard that they bought Casa Bonita because it went out of business or something.
Oh, really?
And sure enough, man, it's right there.
It's been years since I've been there, but yeah, like the cave settings, the cliff divers, it's all there. You know, like it's.
Oh my God!
It's like right out of the show for sure. Yeah,
it was like noon or something when I went there. So like it wasn't open at that time, but you bet your bottom dollar if it had been open, I'd be in there like crazy, man. Yeah.
Well, no, I feel like maybe I've ruined the profound or lovely ending for the interview by dragging you into South Park.
No, it's all good, man.
But like
keep
basically,
it light, you know?
like what as people are listening to this, like okay, I'll have links to www.3dprintedbagpipes.com. That's the number 3, letter D, printedbagpipes.com. Do you have like social media presence they should be checking out or anything like that?
You know, I should be doing that. I have a Facebook page, 3dprintedbagpipes.com Facebook page. I should be doing more social media. Like, I'm not really adept at that stuff, and I'm the only guy doing this, so I've got like the product development, the manufacturer, the social media, the customer service, all that stuff. It's a lot to do by myself, and it's getting to the point where I want to get somebody to help me, but I don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
But the only social media I've got right now is Facebook.
Is it me saying something I shouldn't be saying if I suggest that like if anybody listening happens to be a professional in one of these areas and is interested in helping out a really cool idea, with like maybe you'll get like a 3D printed tenor drone someday, like with no expectation of payment, like hoping just to help this cool idea get out there, that they should reach out to you?
Oh, I think, I mean, that'd be awesome. I mean, I don't have a lot of money right now, but I would definitely be happy to trick somebody to set killer drones that sound awesome and any custom colors they want if they can help me figure this stuff out. I mean, like the social media part.
Yeah.
I'm kind of clumsy when it comes to that stuff. I still get into arguments with people online, so that.
So maybe you should stay away from it, huh?
Yeah, I'd definitely hire a professional for that.
I just like not to beat a dead horse here or anything, but just like I sometimes have. Well, I was going to say served. I never do a very good job of it, but I've sometimes helped with like, like WSPBA chapter boards and stuff like that. And it's just it's this constant thing that like, look, well, like Josh on the Chanter Rant puts it, like we're like pandas in a zoo. Like if we want to save our species, we got to do something about this, right? So like, I'm not saying the hobby isn't cool. Obviously, I think it's cool. I'm very into it. But it's like, if we're not getting more people in all the time, then we will atrophy, right? And so anything that breaks down the barriers that are keeping people out, young people, old people, just more people, let's get rid of those cost barriers, wherever we can.
And I think you nailed it, man. I think that, I think legitimizing what I'm doing is a big part of getting it, established and doing what I wanted to do, which is make it more available to other people. Like, some people would, be like, who is this guy? I mean, like, I was at Island Games here, the only one I did, and I got handed to the WUSPA guys, like Jeff Mann. I mean, the guys, he was awesome, man. He was super helpful. Set me up, hooked me with a couple of people. I was at games, and I got a lot of funny looks.
Yeah.
I had a couple of people that bought some pipes, but I think I just think it was kind of so alien, that people are like, what is that,
Yeah.
But
if that little snowball can get bigger and bigger as it rolls down the hill, like if people get to where they're seeing and hearing 3D printed sets at multiple competitions every year, then right, it becomes more of we begin to accept it more, right? And we start going, oh, actually, I heard a set of those. They didn't sound that bad. Oh, they're how cheap, and maybe it gets bigger and bigger.
Exactly. The more people like, I tell you, when Ralph posted his video on YouTube, I mean, that was like the dam broke. I mean, I was, it was. No amount of advertising, no amount of money I could have spent on advertising was as good as that guy posting a video on Facebook or YouTube.
I love that his bag matches it so well too.
Yeah.
How about this? Having come in on you playing a set, we'll go out on him playing in that video. I'll pull his audio as we go out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, he's a good player too, man.
Yeah, for sure. He's great finger work there. So focus on the drones, people, but his finger work's great too. Enjoy the song.
Exactly.
Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or cover? We can either pick it up right from here, or I can insert it later when I'm doing post work or anything.
No, I just gratitude, man. There's some guys that I want to thank.
Yeah, of course, for sure. Thank them, absolutely.
Ken Adler from Lyon College has been helpful. Ralph, of course, has been amazing. Kent Brody, these guys have been awesome. They helped me develop my brand, really. I call them Delta Bagpipes because it's the change we've needed in piping, and I print on Delta printers. And Kent Brody helped me figure that out. That guy was awesome. These guys didn't have to help, and they did. And then that tells you about our community, right? Like, we are tight knit. We want to help people grow and help people learn, and this has been an incredible privilege to be able to do this. People trust me with this kind of thing. It's cool. It's really cool.
Well, what I'll do is, like, kind of as you're saying that, is when the music will come fading in, and we'll just kind of fade out of it. I like to have this feeling that, like, the conversation has been going on